we're going to be looking at module number 2 at Life Scene Investigation. And this module is really an introduction to design forensics. We use design simply because it's a word that sounds like crime, and we're going to define what it is we mean by design today. I'm not going to go over this module in great detail. I really want, for the most part, for you to understand really what design means, or what a strength means. And so I'm going to go over the first couple of pages pretty quickly. And just as a very brief intro, you go ahead please and just read it for yourself. But again, what are we doing with life scene investigation? Where do we look for evidence? Today we're going to be looking at, again, just very briefly, the 5 fields of evidence and helping you get kids to start, or people you work with, to understand what those 5 fields of evidence are. And then again, to help you understand what the forensic process is. Forensics is really a process that's got 3 major parts to it. That is, we are there to collect evidence, facts. Number 2, we are there to process evidence. The reliability test, the online test that we do. And then also the history, the timeline, and then the forensic evidence matrix. That's processing evidence. And then third and lastly, that is, we do all that for the purpose of presenting it at trial. For life scene investigation, it's preparing all that information to give to the people we work with to help them discover, to get into life with. The forum is life. So, asking the question, getting to answer the question of who am I? Who am I is divided into 5 different parts. Each one of us has 5 different parts that are who we are, that make up and answer the question, who are we? On page 2, you have, with a number of little pictures on it as well, kind of a grid that talks about intellectual capacity. At the top it says the 5 fields of evidence. It says evidence, description, and then ology, or ION. I'll explain what that means now. But one of the things we do is when we have a class, we go through this and we talk about, again, very briefly, what is intellectual capacity? What is the field of evidence? When we rope off your brain, when we rope off what we call intellectual capacity, and we start going into that field of evidence to look for unique strengths, again, not deficit, but we're doing the analysis of asset, what is it we're looking for? Intellectual capacity is my capacity for knowledge, for gathering, for processing, for knowing. It's how I think, how I learn and understand or process information. And then, got the little picture, then we ask the question, so what is it, who is it that studies this capacity? Who are the forensic specialists that look at this particular area of evidence? And so we have people who are in education, teachers do. So the ION is education, ION. We have the study of pedagogy. In many of the older universities, education departments are called departments of pedagogy. I never understood what that word is, but I'd be looking at catalogues of British universities and, pedagogical whatever, study. And that's the study of how to teach and how to process and how to transmit information. And, we have it in, other people who study it, but again, it's just helping us kids identify and understand that there really are unique forensic types of people who are trained in the process of understanding and developing intellectual capacity. In terms of physical capacity, it's what I look like, my physical characteristics, my abilities. It's how I perceive and receive information through my senses, that is, through sight, through smell, through touch, through hearing, through taste. Things that are subject to the laws of nature. So it encompasses all that I am. This vehicle of my design, this vehicle of who I am is my body. We have people who study that. We have people who study, they're called, people who study physiology of the physique, of the physical body. Kinesiology, the movement of the physical body. And then we have people who, in the medical sense, are there to often repair and diagnose deficit. And those are doctors and, cardiologists and nephrologists and, all the specialties in the area of medicine. And then we go down and we look at emotional capacity, and that is how I feel and express emotions both internally and externally. And it's my consciousness of my inward impressions and the states of mind and how I react to physical conditions and physical sensations and situations around me. It's how I respond and feel inside based on those things, and we have people who study that. We have psychology and we have psychiatry, and psychologists and psychiatrists, and social workers and other people who deal with that. And then we look at social capacity, and that is my process, or the process of relating, associating, connecting, leading, giving to other people. It's how I interact with other people, with individuals and groups. And we have people who study those, and those are social workers as well, who kind of combine psychology and the interaction of people and how they mingle and how they associate. And we have anthropology, or anthropologists, people who study how people group and how people develop in different cultures, and those who study cross-cultural communication. It's the study of man in social groups for the most part. And then lastly, meaning and purpose, and again, depending on what area you work in, we talk about spirituality and faith and all those things as well. But it's my ability to transcend the physical. It's one of the things that we recently did with LSI is to add this whole dimension, which is so obvious, but something I never really had in it until this last manual. And that is the question of motive. Why is it you do what you do? What's the purpose behind it? If you cannot determine motive in a trial situation, it's very unlikely you're going to get a verdict. If you cannot figure out why, what is the reason someone committed the crime, you have a problem convincing a jury as well. So meaning and purpose goes to that. How do I understand why I'm here on this planet? Is it to serve other people? Is it to make money? Is it to get power? Is it, find the reason, but find out what motivates. Help people clarify their motives. Help them learn new motives, maybe. But meaning and purpose is vital to all of these because it drives all of these. The less connected, the less able to define that question, who am I, and why is it I'm here, and what's the purpose to it, people tend to live meaningless and purposeless lives. The people who study those things are philosophers. They study philosophy and theology, and they have other great and wonderful words, epistemology and teleology and all those great words that are there to help people understand those things in greater detail, but the rest of us who live on the planet don't understand how all the language those people talk in. And so then we get onto page 3, which again is just helping people understand the uniqueness of who they are. And what we're trying to help them understand is within each of these 5 fields of evidence, we're going to be gathering lots and lots of information. Who they are is a combination, a unique and distinct and apart from everybody else on this planet. It's not just my DNA, it's where I've been, it's who I've associated with in life that help identify. It's nature and nurture and all these things that come together that define who I am as a unique individual.